Hello and welcome to the Sky Blue Times YouTube channel. In this video I wanted to go through this graphic I've got here that I posted a couple of days ago, looking at the number of players for Manchester City in the Premier League and all competitions that managed to put up 10 goals and assists in that season. And this is under Guardiola's entire time managing Manchester City. And as you can see from this graphic, when we're looking at all competitions, there is a drop, but not to an outrageous level when we're talking about last season, the season before, whether it being 7 players on both of those. Previous seasons up to 9. And obviously during the 17-18, 18-19, 19-20 season up to 9 as well. But when we're looking at the Premier League, even though in previous seasons we've seen drops, we haven't seen a drop quite like we saw last season in the Premier League, dropping down to only 2 players. And that goes all the way back to the 16-17 season, where City did struggle in that season to have a lot of goal scorers, but particularly last season that was a problem. Now, Omar Marmoush did come in January. He put up 7 goals and assists across the games that he did play, somebody that you would expect to have put up much better numbers if he was here for an entire season. If we're looking at his Frankfurt numbers along with his numbers for Manchester City, then that's over 30 GNA, all comps across an entire competition. So this is definitely somebody that's going to put up great numbers for Manchester City across his career, but he didn't arrive in time. Jeremy Doku, somebody that dealt with injuries for a large part in the early part of the season, and then got through that and found some real kind of production in the back half. Looked like he was clicking, but not somebody that was playing week in, week out as we come towards the running for the Champions League. Savinho played a good more amount of minutes. He put up 9. Doku put up 9, Foden put up 9, drop off from the previous season, and what you'd expect from him, which we'll touch on a bit later. De Bruyne and Haaland were the only 2 players to go over 10. De Bruyne with 11 goals and assists, and Erling Haaland with 25. So when you're looking all the way across the team, and I go on to Bernardo Silva with 8, Kovacic with 8, who really overperformed in front of goal, taking advantage on the top of the penalty box, taking those chances, being that more number 6. So he significantly overperformed. I think he was one of the highest top 5 overperforming their XG last season in the Premier League, behind only the likes of Mbeumo and Cunha and so on. Gundogan with 7, Matheus Nunes with 7. And when you look at that list, you've got Foden, I expect to return and easily cross 10 goals and assists in the Premier League next season. More than fine for him to do. You've lost De Bruyne, somebody that when he is fit can deliver that. Jeremy Doku, you'd expect getting past injuries, and from the improvements I've seen, I would be confident that he can cross that milestone, but it's definitely not something all fans would be very confident on. So I have to say that. Bernardo Silva, Kovacic, Gundogan, players that you're either not expecting to play a lot of minutes, not expected to be here next season, and not expecting to put up lots of numbers. Matheus Nunes moving over to right back, perhaps he is able to have a successful season and put up good numbers, but you're still not looking at him going, it's going to be easy for him to cross 10 goals and assists in the Premier League, even if he's playing this attacking fullback role. A 10 in actual fact would be really good for him if he was playing as a right back a lot of minutes next season. So when you're looking at that list, other than Marmoush, who you'd expect with a full season to do much better, it's not an encouraging list there for you when you're heading into the new season. Now, if we move over to this one here, this is players in the Manchester City squad over the last 4 seasons, the goals and assists they put up in the league only. Obviously, Erling Haaland, an incredible staple of consistency within the team as a scorer. He does his job. Now, he has dropped off, certainly in the last couple of seasons, and a lot of that I would say is tied to the team, and then a lesser part of that I think there's chances he can definitely do a lot better in, do a lot better with, chances that he didn't take, but for the most part I think really you're looking at the team around Erling Haaland and how well it's set up to create chances for him, and not just create the number of chances but the quality of chances that are best suited for him. Phil Foden, as I mentioned, somebody that across these 4 years trending upwards, so from 14 to 17 to 27, outstanding in the 23-24 season, and then drops off to 9 last season in the Premier League. De Bruyne, 23, down to 14, down to 11. Those past 2 seasons, dealt with injuries that have taken up, whether it's a third to a half of the Premier League season, made it quite difficult for him, yet he still crossed that milestone that others have not. Jack Grealish, somebody that trended upwards from the 21-22 season when he put up 6 and then up to 12 in the treble season. Not only was there performances there, but there was the numbers there as well from Jack Grealish. And then in the past 2 seasons that has dropped off, down to 4 and then 2 last season. Jeremy Doku, 11 and 9 in the past 2 seasons. Somebody that's not put it all together in those 2 seasons. Certainly has had these issues with injuries in those 2 seasons. And as he's mentioned in his latest YouTube video, he wants to deliver his best next season. It has to be his best season. And I think that's a fair place to do it. I think there's a lot of proof that he can do very well. And I think there's a good amount of reasons to be concerned about. I think that's fair, but again, we're looking at people we can bank on getting over 10 goals and assists next season in the Premier League. Doku very close to hitting that 10 mark, but if we're looking at somebody that can guarantee us that, and certainly go a lot further if we're talking 15 to 20, then again, not a player at the moment you can depend on that. Certainly one that can explode and really shoot up with his goals and assists towards that like 15 to 20 mark. And then Savinho, exceptional for Girona last season, 23-24 season. I mean, 19 goals and assists. I believe it was 9 goals, 10 assists. But remember, with that, he's playing for Mitchell under Girona. In Girona, in a team that is set up with him isolated on the left wing in as much space. I believe he was one of, if not the most isolated player when he received that ball, at least among attacking players, because they would really kind of be lopsided towards the right hand side and play short that side, and then they're looking to keep the space and be more transitional on that left side, a bit more kind of like an asymmetric approach from Mitchell when he was managing Girona, and then eventually they get into the Champions League. You come to Manchester City and you can't get away with just being that kind of player. You have to have more to your game, to play more roles within a game, to play more roles across games, and obviously playing as a right winger allows him to do that. He's put up a lot of great underlying numbers when it comes to the kind of creativity side of it. I personally think he had a good debut season for a winger, but again, not somebody that, based on the shooting that he showed in the Premier League last season, that you can bank on getting you those 10 goals and assists. And even if he is crossing that 10 mark, is he somebody that's going to definitely get you 15 to 20? You're expecting that improvement next season. I think there's a lot of reasons for me personally to be confident he would do that. But again, as I've said throughout this video, that you can see why people would be concerned, and those are fair concerns to have when you're trying to look at players you can bank on. Now, if we move this to being per 90 values, and I've not included any player that played less than 500 minutes, so I believe Jeremy Doku missed out on the 21-22 season, Savinho missed out on the 21-22 and the 22-23 season on this, so I've not included their per 90 totals. Obviously, Erling Haaland outstanding, and even when he drops in the most recent season to 0.82 per 90, that's still very, very good. That's up there with some of the best numbers that De Bruyne and Foden have put up. But obviously those earlier couple seasons, the first one with Dortmund and then the 22-23 with Manchester City, winning the treble, 1.43 is quite ridiculous. You look at De Bruyne, always had incredibly high numbers when it comes to goals and assists per 90. You saw that drop off last season, particularly on the output side of things compared to those previous levels. Phil Foden, again, trending upwards in a great place, where he's going 0.59, 0.83, 0.85, and then he's had that drop off last season, 0.46. Issues obviously well reported on the pitch with injuries, off the pitch with other stuff going on with him personally. So I'd expect him to take that step back towards his previous form next season. But you've got, as you can see, that group on 24-25, as I'm circling here, everybody drops down to what you'd expect from previous levels. And these are your guys you're looking at the squad that need to deliver. Bob obviously coming in, first season, had that injury, but even if he was playing, he's not somebody you start the season expecting to get lots and lots of goals and assists right away in that first season. You want something productive, and you want him to make a great first step. But he's not somebody you bank on to get the kind of numbers that you've seen from De Bruyne, Foden, Haaland in the past. And obviously Grealish has continued that decline. I think the per 90 values are good for Jeremy Doku, and that speaks to playing more minutes, getting past injuries. Then you'd expect to see some improvement and some good numbers coming up, and similar things with Savinho. Now, if I move over to some of the players that have come in and players that have been linked, so if you look at Omar Marmoush, he's exploded last season up to 31 goals and assists. In the league, even more so all competitions. And it just tells you that this guy is somebody that is going to come in to score goals and provide assists. He's going to get numbers. That's what they wanted in January, along with some other factors. But somebody that can come in and take that kind of role that Alvarez has had in previous seasons, that Foden has had in previous seasons, where if your Erling Haaland is your number one guy, who's your number two and who's your number three, you still need those guys to be very productive. And in Phil Foden, somebody that can do that. Marmoush coming in, somebody that absolutely can do that. And now he's more settled going into next season. I'd expect him to be putting up good numbers, particularly when you're looking at like that 23, 24, 18. If he gets that kind of mark onwards, I think that would be a good first season for him. I think it's hard to expect the kind of purple patch that he had across like a whole season, near enough a whole season in the Bundesliga. Half season, sorry. It's hard to expect that, but he's definitely somebody that's going to bag goals and assists. Cherki made that step forward last season. Really impressive. Not only the goals and the assists, but also when you're looking at the goals, as I believe I've touched on in previous videos. Somebody that particularly last season was kind of looking to place it, but then when we've seen him play for City in the Club World Cup, when we saw his appearance for France, he can absolutely lace the ball on the top of the box. So if we're getting Cherki that's going to mix in not only placing the ball very well when he's taking the shots and curling them into the goal, but also somebody willing to put their foot through it, and he can do that, then yeah, both goals and assists, expect some good numbers from Cherki. Aït-Nouri had an exceptional season with Wolves, 24-25, particularly adding those goals and assists to his game, somebody that would arrive through the left half space into the box, willing to take shots, willing to put crosses into the box and so on. When you think about Erling Haaland getting those crosses from that left-hand side, I think that's one way that Aït-Nouri will be able to provide assists, and then the kind of way that we've seen from Josko Gvardiol arriving into the box and finishing chances. I think we'll see more of that from Aït-Nouri. Tijani Reinders had that big step up last season as a goal-scoring midfielder. We've seen that in the Club World Cup. We've seen that in the most recent match against Palmeiras, with his 2 goals there, and really should have been 3. So again, somebody I expect to chip in with goals and assists next season. And then Rodrigo, I've added here somebody that we've had a significant link to of late with Romano, with the idea of if Savinho goes to Spurs, then City will look to bring in Rodrigo as that direct replacement. Somebody that across his Madrid career has shown consistency with putting up goals and assists in the league. Last season, I think there's more to it, and I'll definitely touch on this in a more detailed video. There's definitely issues, and Madrid is its own kind of unique team in that the way they don't press and they funnel it towards the left-hand side away from him, and he was having to hold width, particularly on the right-hand side, for a lot of last season. There's just a lot to it with Real Madrid to try and unpick the kind of dynamics. But we've seen the quality from Rodrigo, and when we're talking about somebody that makes smart movement in the box to get rid of a marker and find himself space, that can arrive into the box and time it very well, that knows when to explode into the space for a cutback, that's there ready to anticipate and pounce on loose touches in the box and tap them in. This is something Rodrigo can do, and I think when you're trying to weigh up Savinho versus Rodrigo, this is going to be one of the kind of defining factors of it. But when we're looking at a team that lacked scorers, now we're heading into the season where across the team there's lots of players that can score goals. We move it on to per 90 just to have a look at it from that point of view. As you can see with Marmoush last season, 1.06, that's up there with kind of numbers we've seen from the best of Erling Haaland and De Bruyne. Cherki 0.84, similar to what we saw from De Bruyne across most of his career, putting up high numbers for goals and assists. So yeah, I think good stuff. You look at Rodrigo, as I mentioned, that kind of consistency per 90 with goals and assists, 0.47, 0.64, 0.57, 0.51. And that's somebody that you would think if he's coming into City, they would get him into more favourable positions, and he's going to only increase his output. That would be what you'd expect, and that's something I'll touch on in a future video. I've already started doing a lot of research into that, and I feel quite confident on that happening. And obviously there's a lot of details around the move and the changes with Sevilla, which I'll touch on that at a later date. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. I just want to quickly run through that graph. Players that we do have, players that could be coming in and have come in as we're looking towards next season, just this kind of specific topic. I've got a few other things that I've got planned to put out on video form this week. But if there's anything else you want me to cover, then let me know down below. If you had any questions about anything I've covered in this video, again, let me know down below. I can jump in and reply, and we can have that discussion. Otherwise, please make sure you support the channel by liking the video. Make sure you don't miss out on the next video by subscribing, and we'll be back soon with more content.